Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us today on the CCA California podcast. My name's Chris, your host. Good to be with you today. Today we do have a very special guest, Gregg Garfinkel from Calico Conservation. Really looking forward to getting our conversation going with him. But first, make sure to visit our website, ccacalifornia.org. Make sure you become a member of CCA at joincca.org. And also don't forget about our social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. We're on all three. And make sure you check us out. And while you're at it, make sure to leave a nice review on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, wherever you listen to us. And it goes without being said, we really do appreciate all the support that has been shown to us, not only on the podcast, but also in the last 7 years since we've existed in California. But without further ado, Gregg, what's going on, man? Good to see you.
It's good to be here. It's good to see you, and thank you for your patience while I work out my technical difficulties.
Hey, we all have them. We all have them, especially with this pandemic technology Zoom deal. So it's all good, man.
You would think that after everything, I'm an attorney as well when I'm not doing what I really want to do. I hope my boss doesn't hear that. But, everything is remote. I haven't stepped foot in a courtroom in over 2 years, 2.5 years. So you would think I'd have the technical aspect down, but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could say that for a lot of people nowadays. But anyways, hey, it's been I think it's been actually about 1.5 years or so since we last talked. What's been going on in your world, man? What's going on? What's the latest?
Just on all fronts, I guess the most important one is fishing. I've been getting out locally and trying to, I'm a new boat owner. So that means that I'm still learning my chops on where to fish, where not to fish, how close to be to sporties and all that stuff too. So it's been slow for me, but a definite learning curve. And we've been doing pretty well. We've been fishing up north of the Santa Monica Pier and catching a lot of sandies, some calicos, the occasional mantis shrimp, and one of my new favorite fish, the triggerfish. So I didn't know. I didn't even know that they were in the bay until I thought I had a white sea bass on, and I came up with this kind of funny-looking character. So they're a lot of fun.
Nice. Aren't those surprises the best?
Well, sometimes it would have been a better surprise if it was a white sea bass and not a triggerfish, but what can you do?
I know. I honestly cannot remember how many times it's been, when I was fishing up in the Channel Islands in my, I guess, young life, I would get hooked on to bat rays all the time. And you think it'd be a sea bass or a yellowtail and chasing you around and all that stuff. And then it's just a bat ray.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, the boys and I went up to Alaska for the first time. I guess it was 2 years ago, and obviously we're up there targeting halibut. And I was on a fish for 30 minutes, and the captain's getting the harpoon ready and the gun ready and all kinds of stuff. And I came up, and it was the biggest skate that I've ever seen. And so that was wow. I fly all the way up there, and I catch this giant skate. And the problem is that it happened to me again. So the captain said, "Hey, at least now you got a pair of skates."
Nice. I like that. Well, awesome, man. Well, let's gonna get back into your background here. I know, we're going to talk about Calico Conservation in a little bit, but tell us a little bit about yourself, man. How'd you get going on the fishing? And I know you're an attorney and all that stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've been a San Fernando Valley resident since 1965. Only went away for 3 years for law school. Caught my first fish at Sportsman's Lodge down on Ventura Boulevard, which I guess now is a high-end shopping mall. I haven't been back there. And my dad got me on the water at the age of 4. And I've been in love with it ever since. I had to take a break when I went to law school inland. But I fish as much as I can, as much as my schedule allows. And the early part of my life, like you, was spent up fishing off of, at Cisco's and Port Hueneme when they had the sport fishing landing there. So cut my chops with Joe on The Gentleman, probably the saltiest character I've ever met in my life. But just nothing but good times. And I'm sharing that love with my boys now. I have a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old. And so we fished both since they were, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old, up out of Ventura. We used to go a lot on the Island Spirit. And then we made the plunge to boat ownership, and we get out there, up until the winter, we're getting out there about 2 times a week, either fishing the breakwall in Marina del Rey or being a little bit more adventurous and trying to find something a little bit further out. But yeah, I mean, the thing for me for fishing is as I've grown up, is it's become a lot less about catching fish, and it's been more about, the drives down, talking to my boys, just being out there, and the conversations that we've had. And I think that kind of goes part and parcel. I don't want to jump ahead into the reason behind Calico Conservation, but I really realized that, the fish and fishing is more like the icing on the cake than the whole experience. So growing up, I had a tough dad from South Philadelphia, was one person on the land. And when we get out on the fishing boat, he turned into a completely different human being. And that's where our relationship really grew, is just the conversations and the memories of going to Loretto. We went 16 years in a row and fishing the East Cape, and never got to Alaska with my dad. That was a bucket list item that we didn't meet, but I've been doing that now with my boys. We've gone once, and then we're scheduled to go up to Captain Steve's up in Ninilchuk at the end of July. So trying to make new memories, but similar memories with my boys.
So fishing for you with your family, it's generational. I mean, it first started with you and your pops, and now you're passing it along to the next generation. That's a really cool story.
Yeah. And that's why, that's stresses the importance of maintaining the fishery and being stewards of the fishery, because it's, I want that for their grandkids. I want them to pull on a 5-pound calico bass, or, a white sea bass, which was not even in existence. I didn't even know they existed when I was growing up, because they weren't catching them up at the Channel Islands from, 1978 until relatively recently. Mm-hmm. So it is, and it even goes back further than that. My dad was sharing stories about his dad walking down to the Ocean Park Pier, which no longer exists, in Santa Monica, and catching 15-pound halibut. And I thought it was all BS and folklore, until we went out and started catching bluefin tuna on the anchor on the east end of Catalina. Nobody would believe that. So I guess there's some a little truth to that.
Oh my gosh, I could only imagine how that would go over nowadays.
Yeah, it's crazy, but like I said, that the fishing is the whole experience, from getting ready to cleaning up, and if you catch fish, great. If not, you still got something to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And with your early childhood, now passing it along to your sons, and I know that's kind of spurred in this big project of Calico Conservation. Let's get into it. I know we had first met a couple of years ago. This brand new brand, or not brand new, but it was kind of revitalized from the past, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just poking around on Facebook. I've always practiced conservation since my days back on the sharpshooter at Redondo Beach. Moment of silence for that great boat. But I've always practiced it, but I didn't know that there was a group out there that was, at least back in those days, dedicated to kind of just spreading the word, and spreading the word without casting judgment. So I was just poking around, and I was intrigued by the artwork. Actually, I saw somebody posted an old Calico Conservation sticker that was like loosely, based on the one that I'm showing you right now. And so I tried to find out if somebody had the original artwork. I was unsuccessful in finding out where the original artwork was, but kind of created a new one, and just I slapped this thing on wherever I go, wherever I fish. I'm wearing a Calico Conservation sweatshirt right now, and just getting the conversation going. Catch and release fishing sometimes on Facebook looks more like a political, the divide with the political situation in the United States. And I'm not trying to cast judgment on anybody that chooses to keep their fish. That's their legal right. And, as long as they're eating them and not taking them home, taking pictures and throwing them away, more power to them. But the whole reason for Calico Conservation is just to kind of educate the public, the fishing public too, about the importance of preserving this very slow growing species, and this species that is vital, not only to the sport fishing industry, but to the entire economic situation in California.
Yeah, and I think I know we've talked about it here in the podcast multiple times, but I want to say nowadays, when you look at the Groms or the short pounders, or even, I say kids, but people my age and even beyond, there's a lot more, I mean, in my opinion, there's a lot more respect for the calico bass in terms of slow, the phrase slow to grow, so let them go. Mm-hmm. There are, like you said, there's nothing wrong with keeping onto them and harvesting them and all that stuff. But I think there's more of a conscious effort nowadays, because of brands like yours, to really kind of, I don't want to say, praise the bass, but it's almost like, there's a lot more respect for the species because of just, I guess, genetics and how slow they actually do grow.
Yeah. And like you said, my boys are to the point now where if God forbid, we deep hooked one and it didn't survive, they feel guilty about it. I'm like, hey, it happens. We're doing the right thing. And every once in a while, something happens where we can't release them. So I love that. We fish a lot of spotties in the marina where my boat is, which is Marina Del Rey. I don't want to publicize it too much because I don't know that many people know about the good spotty fishing there. But everything we catch, even sand bass, we're releasing. We've got enough fish in our freezer from our last Alaska trip to last us another year. We don't need to bring home those bass species. There's one gentleman that I see on Facebook who fishes locally, and he always keeps his fish live. He fishes out of Marina Del Rey. I don't know if you want me to use his name. I've never met him. His name is Marcus Fain, and he's always bringing his bass back, and he releases them right at the dock where the Spitfire docks. And I just think that's awesome. And I sent him a shirt and a sticker just to say, hey, keep it up. And I'm willing to do that with anybody, not the shirt, because that's coming out of my own pocket. But send me a video, and I'll send you a sticker just so you can kind of spread the word and make sure that these fish are around for many, many years to come.
Yeah, and since you brought that up, Calico Conservation, it's a mentality and also a movement, but also it's a clothing brand.
I guess so. I guess so. We don't sell too much stuff, but everything that we sell, whether it be a sticker or a T-shirt or what else am I doing? Stickers, sweatshirts, tank tops, all that kind of stuff. We donate. We donate to you. We donate to CCA California. And, we've probably donated around $400 over the last year and a half, something along those lines. But I'm not doing it to become the next, Nike apparel place. I'm just kind of doing it to both, support a worthwhile organization and just kind of get the conversation going. And also, every time I wear these sweatshirts, people come up to me and ask, what's that about? Because there's not a lot of clothing out there with calico bass on it. So I kind of, pull out my pulpit, stand upon it, and preach the glory of releasing our favorite checkerboards.
Nice. And there's also, two big supporters behind, both CCA and Calico Conservation, and that's Val and Tom Hanzus. I know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to mention Valerie by name because she probably is I see her the most frequently wearing some calico bass garb. I think she's even shot me pictures of wearing sweatshirts in the snow, which I got to get a big kick out of too. But I mean, they're well-made stuff, and the vendor that I work with is sympathetic to my plight, so he gives me a good deal so that I can pass along to you folks. But I think I own about 35 shirts and the rest of the world owes the other, 20. But yeah, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm not doing it to make money. If somebody wants to buy it, great. And if there's anything else I could do to promote it, that'd be fantastic.
And how do we buy it?
I've got a Facebook page, and I also has a web page. I believe it's www.calicoconservation.com, and there's also a Calico Conservation Facebook page too. So just hit me up there and send me your size and what you want and the colors that I have, and I'll probably get that thing going a little bit more actively after our conversation, with hopes that people will be drawn there. And I, ship them right, or as quickly as I can, and hopefully you get good use out of them.
Yeah, and there's also if I'm not mistaken, there's also a Facebook group there. I know we've shared a couple of posts on it and all that, but I've also seen people submit their photos, not only with their Calico Conservation gear, but just, really, really great bass photos, which is awesome. It's like you're creating like a little community within the brand too.
Yeah, and like I said, send me video. If you want a sticker, send me video of a bass being released. I don't care if it's, don't go to the Green Pier in Catalina and send me 900 pictures of them being released. But I'm happy to send out the stickers for anybody that submits a picture of a bass being released, or a test that it was released, something along those lines. But I just want this to be fun and informative and educational.
Yeah, for sure. And there's, also for those of you who have followed us for a while, me, and I know Greg, Matt Florentino.
Absolutely.
Good friend of mine, good friend of yours. We actually ended up starting the Coastal Social Bass Tournament Series last year, that benefits CCA and all that. And, really, I think we've told you, but just in case we haven't, really your movement in Calico Conservation was really the brainchild of that whole tournament series, where it's promoting conservation, it's promoting catch and release bass and all that stuff. And, it's a pretty good series.
Yeah, I'd like to get, now that I have my boat, assuming that I can find my way down there. I'm still learning on how to use the trailer. I think I've used my trailer once in the year that I'm on the boat, so it's a little bit intimidating for me. But Valerie's invited me, and Matt Florentino and AFCO have been extremely supportive, both from an informational standpoint, and Seth over there has been very helpful with information on the more scientific aspects of the calico bass fishery. And I'm very much appreciated. So I wear, if I'm not wearing Calico Conservation gear, I've got my my Reaper on, or something from the good folks at AFCO, who have been, they get it. They get it. You can tell that the company's run by true fishermen versus other companies that I don't get that same vibe.
They make so much great stuff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, if you don't have a Reaper in your wardrobe, then you're missing out. I mean, I'm going to wear it skiing this weekend. It's just the best, and I've got my whole family is wearing them too. So we look like a walking, North Valley advertisement for AFCO. So thanks to them.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, our Coastal Social tournaments for 2022, April 30th and September 17th. April 30th is going to be up in Long Beach. That's the northern event. And then September 17th is going to be the southern event out of San Diego. So definitely hope to see you there. Greg, hope to see you there too. Hopefully we can get together there.
That would be awesome. That would be great.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your boat, what kind of boat do you have?
I have a Parker center console 23-foot 2300 series with a 4-stroke 150. Just bought it in March of last year, and it's the best money that I've ever spent in my life. I feel like we got our money's worth out of it the first 2 months that we owned it, and that's even your whole perspective changes. Before, if you go out on a party boat and you're fishing rockfish and you don't come back with 5 reds, you're disappointed. Whereas if we go out on our own and we come back with a total of 5 reds for the 3 of us, we're ecstatic, and it's just all a matter of expectations and just kind of learning. It's just such a huge learning curve, just on how to read the fish finder, the sonar, and all those things too. So the biggest challenge for me was just making sure I felt safe before I took the boys out there in fog. It's just a great boat. Great boat.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so here's a question for you. When it comes to, the difference between owning your own boat and actually doing literally all of the work as opposed to going on a sport boat, nothing against the sport boats or anything like that. I love sport boat fishing all the time, but you're kind of right where, when you're doing it yourself, literally doing it yourself, finding your own spots, responsible for everything and everyone on the boat, it's a little more gratifying, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And me and my two boys, we each have a distinct responsibility on the boat. Mine is to captain the boat and get us to the spot. My youngest son, Brand, who's 17, could be a deckhand on any sporty on this coast. He's fantastic. So he's my deckhand. And then my older boy, Ben, who's also studying marine biology at UCSD, or I believe Seth went from AFCO, if I'm not mistaken. But he looks at the charts and says, hey, this looks good. There's a convergence of two different types of bottoms with a drop off. Let's go check this out. So it's really kind of a well-oiled machine. And working together, it's just so gratifying. I mean, our best day out there on the boat was probably a total of 12 fish for the three of us. This is for rockfish. And we came back and it was better than catching bluefin tuna at Catalina. I mean, it was just fantastic. So, I think that answers your question. But just you own it, you own it, and you're not, you're able to fish spots that the sporties aren't. If you come across one high spot, drift it versus it might have 5 fish on it where it doesn't make sense for a sporty to stop on that because they're going to have 5 happy fishermen and 40 unhappy ones.
Oh yeah. Do you find yourself bass fishing more often as opposed to rock fishing or vice versa?
Well, we more bass fishing. We do rockfish to kind of pass the time, and we were kind of cutting our chops since we got the boat in March and the bass weren't popping at that point in time, at least not that I knew of. Matt would probably find them. Then as the water warmed up, we fished a lot at Palos Verdes and we had 100 fish days there. And then up north at BKR, we fished. And so we love the bass. We love fishing bass. And also at the breakwall, there's a good bass bite there too on occasion. So on the days where it was snotty outside, we just swing on in and fly line a bait or throw a plastic at the wall, and we caught some big fish there.
So you kind of just brought it up, but are you fishing more live bait, or are you kind of sticking with artificials, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. For the rockfish, obviously, we're just waiting 2 strips of squid and wait. For the winter bass, we've been doing some plastics. At Rocky Point, we were fishing some surface irons. It's a little tough with all the weeds there, all the kelp there, but mostly plastics, some tube baits, and some bait to get them going.
Very cool.
So it's probably 60-40 artificials versus bait.
Okay. And, I should probably, after your comment earlier about your son, I should probably be asking him this, but when you're going bass fishing at an MDR or wherever, for those that, are still trying to get into bass fishing or saltwater bass or whatnot, what kind of conditions are you typically looking for? Are you looking, towards the top of the kelp or just kind of moving along?
To be honest with you, Chris, I wish I could give you a better answer. The only condition that I care about is my ability to get away from work and get out there. I don't care. I mean, if I have the opportunity to fish, I'm not going to not go because the tide's going out or the tide's going in. I mean, we've had days where all the people that are much more knowledgeable than I would say, oh, you're not going to have a good day. And we had a 40 fish day at PV. So to me, the only condition I care about is what my work schedule and what my boys' baseball schedules allow. That's the only condition I care about.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, I mean, it seems. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you need to get like a a Valerie or Matt on here for that kind of stuff. That's way above my pay grade. And if I can fish, I'm going to fish, and I'll find something to pull on. Whether it be a butterlip perch or I can't say yellowtail. I haven't caught a pelagic on my boat yet. So we'll get there though.
Yep, yep, and they are for sure coming for sure. Yeah, it's it's interesting. Whenever it seems like that question, there's multiple answers to, and everyone I talk to gives a different answer. So I was kind of curious to see what you look for, but I mean, it really doesn't matter for, sometimes they, guys swear, oh, you've got to go in an outgoing tide, incoming tide, top of the kelp, got to get in there or whatnot. I think, to pardon the pun, but whatever floats your boat, man.
Right, right. I mean, I fished a lot with Jeremy Maltz at Marina Del Rey Sport Fishing. He had a 6-pack that we were fishing on a lot during COVID. He basically enabled us to get out there. This is before we had the boat, and we'd fish Rocky Point. And he said, "Oh, today's a good day. The kelp's laying down, so we can fish right on top of it." So he's an amazing fisherman and a really, really good guy.
Very cool. You had alluded to something earlier about, fishing in general is kind of like the icing on the cake, to where really it's all about trying to get yourself and your two boys out on the water, spending time together. I hear those stories more often than not, and it's a really good thing, not only for the whole industry, but also for, just us human beings as well as a species.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's to me is the gas is a lot. Gas costs a lot, but it's a lot less expensive than therapy. So it's like if things get too rough, on land, and I don't have a very good profession for that because things can get pretty hairy. If I can get out on the boat just to take it out the harbor and go, fish a stone a mile away from the harbor and get back, I feel like, the slate's been cleaned, and I'm just a whole different person. I just, the therapeutic aspect of it, and I can't really articulate what it is, but you're so concerned about what's going on at the end of you just focus on the tip of the rod and what's going on in the feel of the line, and everything else falls in place. But I don't think that the therapeutic aspect of fishing could be overstated.
Yeah, and with and it doesn't mean that you have to go out and buy a boat or whatnot. I mean, you could very easily accomplish that on the sport boats or wherever, even on the half day boat, to where it's not that expensive, but still, you go grab a friend or a family member or a son or a daughter or whatever, go spend a couple hours with them, and it can make their week, it can make their month for that matter.
Yeah, there was a gentleman that posted. He's up in the Channel Islands, and and he went out sand dab fishing, and somebody poo-pooed it, saying, "Oh, sand dab, you drop a 600 hook Ganyan and you bring them up." It's like, what? The burgers taste the same, the scenery is the same. You wake up at the crack of dawn the same. You drive with no traffic, which is even the rarest thing out here. So fishing is fishing, whether you're catching a 10-inch spotted bay bass off the, in your from the seawall at Long Beach or Marina Del Rey or Mission Bay, or whether you're chasing bluefin or yellowtail or whatever, it's the same. It's the same, the same relaxation. So,
Yeah.
and I agree. I mean, some of the best days I've had, the most memorable days I've had, are fishing in the surf. Just going out there knee deep or whatever and catching barred surf perch or the occasional corbina. I mean, it doesn't matter. Just soaking the line just kind of cures a lot of ailments.
Yeah, and with not to sour the subject, but I know with all this upcoming issue, I know I'm sure you're probably familiar with the carb issue and the sport boats, and the recreational fleet is not too far behind and the private boats aren't too far behind and all that. It would be a huge tragedy to lose everything because of something like that. And I'm sure you could probably agree with that one.
Absolutely. And I've dealt with the carb issue. Actually, I represent a lot of transportation companies. So with them retrofitting their trucks, it's been hard on that economy, and ultimately the consumer faces it there because they're going to pass that cost on. But with that happening to the sport fishing industry, if the boats aren't operating and they can't operate, they can't pass the cost along. They'll perish. And the worst thing in the world that could happen is to make sport fishing just something for the elite. Those people that have boats, and taking it away from the lion's share of society that can't afford gas or a boat or whatever to be able to walk down to a dock, jump on a boat for $50 and leave all their troubles behind. So it truly would be a travesty if some sort of accommodation wasn't made where you're balancing, instead of balancing the interests of a clean environment with the need for people to make a living. And it can be done. They just have to do the time and give it the thought and attention that it deserves. But I don't want to get political with you, but I think that the current proposal is throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, and with I guess the key word to that, to what you just said, Greg, is access. We lose access, or I guess a big part of the population lose access to not only fishing but also to the ocean as well, in the form of sport fishing boats, the whale watching boats, the science trips, the kids trips, you name it. Everything, without those boats, it's unaccomplishable.
Yeah, and what you just said, Chris, I didn't envision getting like the hair up on my arms during our exchange, but I was thinking about that too, about how when you're out on your boat and you see dolphin, you don't realize that 99.9% of the United States never gets to see that in real life, other than in an aquarium or something like that. And to deprive the public of that opportunity would just be a shame.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, where whether you're going out fishing to Catalina, Clemente, whatever, you see a lot. You get to experience quite a bit, whether that's dolphin, whether that's whales out there, or just fishing in general. I mean, it's truly a different world out there for sure.
Yeah, try to put a price on seeing the sunset from mid-channel, from the ocean. It's just you can't do that. So
yeah,
it's like I said, it's a lot more than the fish.
Right. So speaking of Clemente, I gotta ask, have you been out to the islands with your new boat and all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm not Clemente. That's a haul from Marina Del Rey. So I've braved the channel and gone to Catalina just once. And I'm thinking about doing it again pretty shortly. I guess the bonita have been showing up on the front side, which it's a little bit more accessible to me. But we did it, and we did it. I was expecting the worst when I came home, and we survived. We didn't catch the amount of fish that we wanted to, but that was before, that was very, relatively early in my comfort level with the boat. I kind of wanted to get out there. It's like taking a long morning jog, running out there, touching an object and then coming back. I should have spent a little bit more time there, but my level of confidence and with myself, my abilities to read the charts and to pilot the boat have increased. So I'll be definitely doing that a lot sooner rather than later. I didn't think I was going to get out there until maybe late spring or early summer, but the fish, it seems like it would support it, and go there, pull on a couple of bonita, and maybe dock, get some good clam chowder, and come home.
Oh, that sounds like a great day, my friend.
Yeah, any day on the ocean is a good day.
Oh yeah. Well, not to put you on the spot, but with it being, we're barely into February now, any 2022 plans for you and your boys and your boat and all that stuff? Any goals that you have in mind that you want to accomplish, and fishing wise at least?
Oh, I mean, how much time do you have? I told you I only had till 11:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we got to get a pelagic on there. The yellowtail fishing at Catalina last year was brutal, to say the least. I don't know if that had anything to do with the bluefin being there and eviscerating everything that swims. We've got to get a pelagic on the boat. I think we hooked one at Rocky Point in August, but it didn't want anything to do with us and knew where the kelp was. So number one goal is get a pelagic. Biggest goal is to have a running boat at the end of 2022, which I think will be not be a problem. And just keep having fun and finding my own spots. You know, I don't chase sporties. You know, there's enough spots out there that actually the prior owner of the boat marked, that we go by, check them out, and usually they're holding fish. So I'm kind of using some of his old techniques, and we're finding some of our own. So just getting more comfortable with the boat, doing overnight. At Catalina, I don't have a sleeping berth, but I've got a blow-up cushion that I can put on the front and cover us, or dock it and go on land. So that's it with respect to the boat.
That's cool, man. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And then the biggest trip that we have planned is the one up to Alaska. Now that's just that's a graduation present for my younger son.
Oh, that's actually on my bucket list too, just to go up there. I've actually never been. I've been to Alaska, but never been fishing up there, and it looks epic, to say the least.
We went to a lodge off the coast of Ketchikan for my older son's graduation, and it was, you know, I've been to Hawaii probably 10 times. The beauty up there, I mean, Hawaii's touched. This Alaska area is not touched; it's untouched, and you know, you see trees there with bald eagles like sparrows down here. You know, they're six bald eagles in a tree, and orca 15 feet from the dock. It's like all this stuff, once again, that if you didn't have pictures, nobody believe you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I cannot wait. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. Well, since I see it in the background, and I've been trying to hold off as long as I possibly can, being a baseball fan. I know baseball is a really big passion of yours, like fishing. Where did that come from?
I started playing, well, I played all the way up until college.
Okay.
Wasn't, you know, I could hit very well, but my speed was like you'd measure it with an egg timer instead of a stopwatch. And I'm just fascinated with the game. I love the game almost as much as fishing, almost as much. And I mean, I could tell you the first day I opened a pack of baseball cards. I can tell you the first day that I ever played. August 9th, 1974 was the first day that I listened to a Dodger game and heard Vin Scully's voice. And I just got hooked. And I started off, and I probably got hooked because I was good at it, and I'd never played T-ball. Just started playing it and loved it because I was able to do something with a great group of friends. It was something that I could go out and throw a tennis ball against my garage door, and still in touch with a lot of the guys that I played with back at Northridge Park back in 1974 through 1980. And yeah, I just loved it. Played in high school all the way up to college, got some offers, decided I wanted to focus on my career because I didn't want to live the minor league lifestyle. Just love I love everything about it. I love how it tracks history. I love how it brings people together and has brought people together. And I just love everything about the sport.
All right, here's the burning question. When is this lockout going to end, man? This is brutal.
Yeah, I know that they're seeking federal intervention with a mediator to kind of get the parties to the table, but it's you know, once again, I just kind of tune out with that. It's so disappointing, and especially right now when we need that. I mean, as a society, we need to be able to go and get back together. You know, whether I'm not going to talk about masks or not masks, we need to get people back together and watching our nation's game. And it's hard to pick sides when you've got a bunch of, you know, millionaires and billionaires sitting in a room together, you know, complaining over whether the minimum salary is going to be $712,000 a year or $650,000 a year. It's just hard to really know what's driving. Well, you know what's driving it. It's money. AJ Spalding in the late 1800s said that money would be the ultimate death of this game. And, this game's never going to die, I don't think, but these kind of actions kind of push fans away, like it did the last time we had a strike.
Yeah. And the last time I think was 94, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And I mean, the thing that sticks out to me being from San Diego, I'm a big Padre fan. You probably know Tony Gwynn, almost to 400. That kind of ruined a shot.
Yeah. And I have another room. I'm not in the room where you can see, but I've got a Gwynn signed jersey up too. And I'm not one of those fans that if you don't like my team, I don't like you. I get along great with Giants fans as long as they're true baseball fans and not knuckleheads. Every stadium's got their knuckleheads, regardless of what sport. But he was just such a class act and such a great ambassador for the game. And it took widespread steroid use to get fans back into the game after '94. So.
Yeah, and with with the emergence of all these young players and all that, like our own Fernando Tatis Jr., Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a couple others, Soto, all these young players that are coming up now seem to actually pretty much sparking the interest back in baseball as of late, at least.
Yeah, I mean, Tatis is my 17-year-old. You should have him on next. He's a baseball savant. And I'm kind of old school. I still look at hits and batting average and home runs, and he tells me that I'm, an old man and that stuff doesn't matter anymore. But Tatis, he says, and we love watching him. He's just the most exciting player in the game right now. And that's coming from a player that roots for your division rival. But they got to get out there. I mean, I was hoping to go to spring training this year, since it's been so screwed up the last couple of years, but that's not looking great right now. But that's it. And that's another thing that me and my boys share is a passion for baseball is, and my son, my younger boy's in his senior year at Granada, and he's a phenomenal player. He was the MVP last year, and all area, all city, all everything. And so it's a pleasure to watch him play. And he's a better baseball player than I was, and he's a better fisherman than I am now. So it's good. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, last question before we get out of here.
Okay.
As a fellow National League West, fan, what are your thoughts on the DH coming to the National League?
I have my initial reaction where you're going to say, yeah, you're just being old. Which is, I'm a traditionalist. I love, like, the jersey behind me is Eddie Matthews, who played from 52 to 68, I believe. So I'm an old school guy. I like pitchers batting, but you know what? I mean, it's probably time to take that horse out back. Because not necessarily because I think it should be done, but I think that it'll bring more fans to the game, and make the games a little bit more exciting. And I think having both leagues playing under the same set of rules is probably the best idea. So I think it's probably time for that to happen. Robot umpires, no, never, because you got to have somebody to hate on the field. That's just the nature of the theater. You've got to have a villain, other than Manny Machado. But you've got to have. It's just part of the game. It's blown calls are part of the game, and you move on. It's just like life. Life's not perfect. It's how you deal with adversity. Well, that sounded pretty profound, didn't it? It's just how you deal with that and how you overcome that. And that's what's going to happen every step of that you take during life or on the baseball field.
Yeah, I couldn't really agree with you more, Greg. I think, true for me, I've always been against throwing the DH in the National League just to keep some kind of authenticity with the old timers and all that. But at the same time, I kind of get it. I understand why it should come and why it would be beneficial for everyone to have a DH as opposed to having one, no offense to pitchers out there, but having one lame duck bat in the whole lineup,
right?
Almost a certain out. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, you could count. It's like if I asked you to name 5 pitchers that you even think about hitting when they come to the plate, you'd probably be hard pressed. There's pitchers that I like to watch hit, like Rich Hill. I mean, that's just for the comedic relief. And Kershaw and Baumgartner could swing it. And then there's a couple of new rookies that the closer they get to their high school and college days when they were actually batting, the better that they hit. And then they get old like me and can't swing the bat anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Gregg, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming on. One more time, how do we get in touch with you, and how do we follow Calico Conservation? How do we get some merch?
The merch is at www.calicoconservation.com. No funny spellings or anything. So Calico, like Calico Bass, conservation, just how it sounds. Or you can sign up and follow Calico Conservation on Facebook. I don't think I'm on Instagram yet, but maybe I'll come into the 21st century and start doing that. But
excellent.
Yeah, truly a pleasure talking to you, Chris.
Yeah, likewise, my friend. Likewise. Thank you so much again. Really appreciate being here. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate the followship, all of the support for the podcast. Make sure to go on our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. You can even watch episodes of the podcast on YouTube as well. And also don't forget to visit our website, ccacalifornia.org. My name's Chris. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and we will see you next week. Take care, everyone.